I think it's time to talk about this book. So, on this channel, I've predominantly been focusing on doing reactions to the Quran. Often when I do my reactions to the Quran, I make comparisons, not to a lot of people's liking, but I make comparisons to stuff like Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, and also I make a lot of comparisons to this, the Law of One, theramaterial. So, what is the Law of One, theramaterial? So, the Law of One, theramaterial was 5 original books. The first of the 5 books was released in 1981. This was the result of a long-term science experiment done through the 1960s, 70s and 80s, where protocols were worked on and honed for several years under scientific laboratory conditions so that psychic contact could be made with an extraterrestrial group. By an extraterrestrial group, I mean a group of ETs, a race of ET beings, extraterrestrial beings. Extraterrestrial being not of this Earth, non-terrestrial. Terrestrial is the Earth, extraterrestrial is beyond the Earth, so a group of extraterrestrial beings. The group in question here go by the name of Ra. There were several scientific conditions and protocols which had to be precisely followed and honed to allow for this contact. But when successful, the ET group were able to talk through one of the participants. Her name was Carla Ruckert. So through these protocols based on electromagnetic resonance and narrowband waves, so the type of communication that the Ra group describe it as is narrowband communication. They say they communicate through a narrowband wave to Carla, who they speak through. So yeah, through the protocol based on electromagnetic resonance and narrowband waves, the ET group were able to voice their collective consciousness through Carla once she was in a specific unconscious trance-like state. Okay, so she would be put into this, the scientific protocols would be followed to the T, with specific things lined up. She'd have to lie in a certain position towards a certain magnetic pole, with certain items placed around her. She'd have to enter this trance-like state where she would then become unconscious, unaware of anything, and then the ET group would speak through her. When she awoken from these trances, she would have no idea what happened. It would feel like she just felt she was asleep. She would have no recollection of what was said, of the details of the speech. She would have no recollection of any of what was going on. Okay, she would feel very, very tired, knackered, in fact, afterwards, because it's a very draining thing to do. And this is how it would operate. So yeah, as I said, she was unconscious and unaware of anything that was being said throughout the sessions. It was done in this way so that the ET group could utilize Carla's vocal cords to transmit information without any need for filtering or translation from the instrument Carla. Okay, so a lot of these channeling people that you see, and they say they're channeling this person, that person, this group, people say they're channeling Jesus, various Buddha, various people say they're channeling people. But usually they're awake, they're here, they're looking at the camera like you, they've got their eyes closed and they say, yeah, I'm trying. Carla was completely unconscious. They had to go through scientific protocols that I worked through over 15 years of scientific study to put her into this trance state to allow for the communication to happen. Okay? Completely unconscious, asleep, lying on the bed, as you can see in the pictures. Okay. So the head scientist of the group was a man called Donald Elkins, Professor Donald Elkins. He was a professor of physics and engineering at the University of Louisville. He held 2 master's degrees, one in mechanical engineering and one in general engineering. And he's the person in the group that would ask the questions to the ET civilization. The scribe for the group, so the person that would write all the information down, all the information that went in this book, and the last living member of the scientific group. His name is McCarthy. The last living member, he's still alive today. You can search his videos up on YouTube. Probably the best person to, if you want to find out about the Law of One. There's a lot of people on YouTube explaining it and talking about it, but the original member of the group, the last living member, is the best person if you want to get information on this. So I highly advise looking him up. So he had a science master's in childhood education. He has a science master's in childhood education. And the last person, Carla Ruckert, who sadly passed away, she had a master's in English in English literature with library services. And she was the person who was put into the trance state and whose message would come through and she would speak it out. And yeah, that's the material we have. So, there's a long introduction in the book. It's set out into questions, numbered questions, and yeah. So basically, Carla Rocket, Donald Elkins, and Jim McCarthy, they were all scientists and academics who had doctorates in physics, mechanics, engineering, social sciences, master's degrees. These are highly educated and credible people. This is not a hoax. The original reason that Donald Elkins pursued this experiment was due to the information he was receiving from other people and groups who claimed they were in contact with ETs through trance-like states such as this. So that piqued his interest. So what happened was these people were providing him with insights and discoveries in physics and mechanics and engineering, which were not yet discovered at the time, and they were subsequently proven to be correct through various experiments. So that piqued his interest. He said, okay, this is a real genuine phenomenon. These people with no scientific knowledge are coming up with these scientific revelations, which is something I must investigate, and this is how it all came about. Okay, so the extraterrestrial group they came in contact with go by the name of Ra. You might have heard the name Ra before from ancient Egypt, the god Amun-Ra. I'll explain more about that later. That was a bit of a mix-up between the ancient Egyptians there with the Ra group, but don't worry about that for now. So the Ra group, they say that they are a 6th density social memory complex who previously inhabited the planet Venus. So the planet Venus in our solar system is their home planet. Okay, so the Ra group made contact with this group in order to teach them the universal law, which is the law of one. Now, what is the law of one? The law of one simply states that all is one. So we are all, they say the universe was created, or the universes were created first from the one original thought of the one infinite creator. From that one original thought, see in Islam they say kun fayakun, he said to be and it was to be. In the Bibles they say at the beginning the word was with God, so similar to Quran, to be, and the word was with God. Christianity is mixed up with the word being Jesus and stuff like that, but the word was with God. In the law of one, instead of the word with God or God saying to be, they say the original thought was with God. So God had this original thought in which he wanted to explore himself or herself or itself, and from this one original thought everything came into existence. Therefore we are all part of God's one original thought. Therefore we are all part of God. We are all part of the creator and the creation. So God in the law of one is the one infinite creator. God is not only the creator, but is also the creation. As the creation, we are part of the creator because we have a soul. So the oversoul, which is God, the one infinite soul, which created and encompasses everything, is alive and is within every single living thing, or every single thing full stop in the universe. As for living things, we are the awakened consciousness portions of God. So what they describe it as is an individualized portion of the one infinite creator. So you, me, every living thing you see is an individualized portion of the one infinite creator. Why did God do this? God wanted to explore itself. This is the reason for the creation. It's an exploration of self. So God wanted to explore what it's like to be a rock, a wave in the ocean, a raindrop, a person, a man, a woman, black, white, Asian, Oriental, Native American, and this happened throughout the universe. That's why our universe is filled with life, a plethora of different life. We can't see all the different forms of existence yet because we're only in the 3rd density, or the 3rd heaven. I'll explain that more later. But this is the law of one. Everything is unity, everything is one, everything is oneness. Okay, I'll read a quote from you quickly just to give you a quick roundup, or just to give you a quick summary from Ra on what this means. Okay, here's a great quote from question 1.7, so it goes in the order from 1 to the end. So 1.7 is very early in the text, so I'll just read a bit about what they call unity. Yeah, they're describing unity and how we are all unified, which goes along with the scientific theory, the unified field theory, which kind of is the theory of how everything is connected and how everything is consciously connected through some dark matter. Before they used to call it string theory, everything was connected by strings, but it's basically a unified field theory where everything is unified, everything is part of the same one consciousness, okay? So here's question 1.7. So Ra says, I am Ra. Consider, if you will, that the universe is infinite. This is yet to be proven or disproven, but we can assure you that there is no end to yourselves, your understanding, what you would call your journey of seeking, or your perceptions of the creation. That which is infinite cannot be many, for manyness is a finite concept. To have infinity, you must identify or define that infinity as unity. Otherwise, the term does not have any reference or meaning. To an infinite creator, there is only unity. You have seen simple examples of unity. You have seen the prism, which shows all colors stemming from the sunlight. This is a simplistic example of unity. Okay, this is unity. This is the law of one, the law of oneness. This is why in the law of one, it's kind of, see, it speaks of oneness greatly, which Islam does as well. But in Islam, it's focused more on the oneness of God, God being one. This is true in the law of one. God is one, infinite, the one infinite creator. But with the law of one, having one infinite creator who created this creation, there must be unity. There cannot be a separation between the creator and the creation. Otherwise, a creation as big and as vast as this would cease to exist without a connection to the creator. Okay? What's running this creation, what is keeping it alive, is the unity. This is what they want us to realize, that we are all unified, we are all one, part of the one infinite creator. I believe in Islam this was trying to be expressed in ways. So, yeah, I'll continue with the introduction of the Ra material. So, yeah, the extraterrestrial group they made contact with go by the name of Ra. They are a sixth density social memory complex who previously inhabited the planet Venus. The Ra group made the contact with this group in order to teach them the universal law, the law of one. And through doing this, it allowed the group to ask any questions they wanted, as long as it was within the teachings of the law of one and would not affect the free will of humans on this planet. So, whether that information was about the solar system, the planet, other ET beings, evolution, history, scientific principles, religion, who built the pyramids, life on Mars, etc., etc., etc. They even discussed Prophet Muhammad, Buddha, Jesus. Okay? So this is the law of one, the Ra material. If you'd like more details about the experiment and the techniques, or any information at all on the books, please read the introduction to the book. You can find that on www.llresearch.org or www.lawofone.info. You can read the whole book, all 5 books there for free. There's either a search bar, a little keyword bar, where you can just search the bits that you're most interested in, type it in, and read away, see what they thought. If it doesn't agree with you, if it's not for you, leave it. It's not for you. Okay? So, what did we say? What did they say about us as humans? Now, it's somewhat in contrast to the Abrahamic faith. It teaches the oneness of God. It teaches that there is a judgment day, but they call it a harvest, which Jesus also referred to, the harvest. Jesus said, pray to your Lord, the Lord of the harvest, to send the gardeners, to send the helpers, which they basically explain here. So, yeah, let's talk about what we are as humans. Okay, so according to the law of one, what are we as human beings? What are we as souls, as human beings? What are we? Now, in Islam, it's said we are the highest level of awareness and consciousness on this planet, which is true to an extent. We're the highest visible form of awareness and consciousness. That's true. However, in the law of one, they teach that we actually reincarnate over several lives in order to reach our goals. There is judgment. There is what we call a judgment day before God. There is a review of your life or your lives. Yeah. First, before we get into that, I'll just have to explain the densities. Now, in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam as well, there is the 7 heavens concept. where God describes 7 levels of heaven, 7 levels of ascension. This concept is also there in Buddhism, in Sikhism, and it's also there in Hinduism. In Hinduism they call it the 7 lokas. So the law of one shares this 7 heavens, but we call it the 7 densities. In all there's 8 densities. You basically you finish your evolution, and you make your way out of this universe, out of this octave, out of this kind of a density octave. So basically what Ra would say is that we live in an octave universe, so there's 8 octaves altogether, 8 densities. We evolve through 7 densities. When we reach the 8th density, we make our way back to the creator and we move on to something different. So right now we are in the 3rd density, or the 3rd heaven, if you'd like to call it that. And we as human beings are working our way to the 4th density. Okay, so I'll just give you a quick brief description of the densities just so you can understand. So what they explain is that we are souls going through a spiritual, physical and mental evolution. Okay, as planets, the planets are also living things. They are also going through the same process as us. Our planet Earth is a 3rd density planet transitioning to a 4th density planet. That's why we are 3rd density beings transitioning to a 4th density being. Okay, this is what you currently are as a human being. According to the theramaterial, you are a 3rd density being transitioning to a 4th density being. Okay, so as I said before, we exist in a octave universe. This means that there are 8 densities and 8 levels of evolution that we must progress through. They explain that our planet so far has provided us with the first 3 densities, okay, which are the first 3 stages of evolution. So we are seen as a 3rd density planet, or kind of a 4th now, but a 3rd/4th density planet, and we human beings are seen as 3rd density beings by the other beings in existence. Okay, they explain that our planet went through the 1st density of existence for 2 billion years, where we as souls existed as the earth, fire, air and water elements. So, as an earthling, as we all are, we existed in the first 2 billion years of Earth's life. We existed as the elements. So yes, our souls, our light, our infinite light that animates the body, which leaves the body upon death, these souls existed as the elements: earth, water, fire and air, or wind. Okay, this was your first level of existence. They call this a random and kind of uncontrolled existence, where we are working our way up to having the ability to have an awareness and a body to control. As an element, we had no body to control. We were just part of the elements. We were moving, swaying, going wherever the rocks or the seas or the winds or the earth or the air, wherever it took you, whether if you were in the fire, wherever it took you, this is what you were part of. As we evolved through that and we got lots of experience in all these different elements, we evolved upwards to the next density, to the 2nd density. So after this 2 billion year period, the Earth entered its 2nd density time period, which they say lasted approximately 4.6 billion years. So we as souls then existed as 2nd density beings for 4.6 billion years, okay? 2nd density beings, they told us, are animals, insects, and higher plant life, such as trees, and also minerals as well. Okay, so as a 2nd density being, we existed here for 4.6 billion years as different 2nd density beings. So from trees, from higher plants, to animals, elephant, dog, cat, monkey, gorilla, tiger, lion, lizard. We evolved through all the different spectrums of 2nd density life. The aim of 2nd density life is to awaken your awareness and your consciousness. So 1st density life, we had no body. 2nd density life, we were given a body and we were given a limited consciousness. Okay, the aim of living as an animal and a plant for 4.6 billion years was to awaken our 1st level of consciousness. Okay, how do we awaken our 1st level of consciousness? We have to realize that we are an individualized portion, an individualized awareness, separate from, other animals, separate from the pack or the other lives, or we have an individual consciousness. We it might come to you as maybe you're a cat and suddenly you recognize beauty, or say you're a cat that exists now and you have an owner that is showing you love and affection, and they're kind of giving you human characteristics. They're calling you a name, they're cuddling you, they're stroking you, they're crying when you pass, you're crying if they pass. They're healing you from your pain, they're taking you to the vet, they're looking after you when you're sick. And even obviously when we evolved, there was no humans there. So when we evolved, we had to go through experiences that open our eyes to love, to caring, to living, to dying, to hunting, to being hunted, to caring for our young, to crying, to feeling remorse, to observing beauty around us. As an animal, we had to learn all these things. We observed the beauty of the universe, and this slowly awakened our consciousness to the point where we were an awakened conscious being, of which we now call a third density being, okay? So second density beings, they told us animals, insects, higher plant life, such as trees and also minerals. Then through these years of evolution, if you are able to recognize your soul as part of your mind and body complex, and awaken an awareness as an individualized portion of the one infinite creator, then you would be able to evolve to the third density and become a third density being, what you would call a human being, okay? So, at the end of that 4.6 billion year period, the planet evolved to a third density planet, and the second density beings that had made the evolutionary step to third density then incarnated in the third density on Earth as human beings, which is what we see ourselves as now. Human beings are the first conscious level of awareness and awakeness. That's why at the beginning I said we're seen as the highest level of consciousness on this planet. We're the first step of awakened consciousness. In this universe, there are 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th density beings, and it takes millions upon millions upon millions of years to evolve to these states, yeah? Look how long it took us to evolve from a first density being, 2 billion years. Second density being, 4.6 billion years. That's 6.6 billion years to get to here as a third density being, okay? Which is where we are now. An awakened conscious being. What is an awakened conscious being? We can look, we can analyze the universe, we have opposable thumbs, we can grab, we can move, we can give, we can take, we can talk, we can communicate with words, we can communicate ideas. I can think of a purple fish in my mind, and now I've said purple fish to you, now you're thinking of a purple fish. We can communicate concepts, words, ideas, philosophies, communicate religions, beliefs, faiths. Sorry about that, guys, my battery died, but yeah, as I was saying, so yeah, we're now third density beings. We can communicate ideas, beliefs, scientific principles. We can study the world, we can study and examine the world around us, we can make analysis of the world, measurements. We're awake, we're awakened. We worked 6.6 billion years for this point. So we're here now, we're evolved to the third density. And, we have to understand the oneness of God, the oneness of the Creator and the creation. And we also have to understand our oneness with God, with the Creator, with the creation as well. Okay. So yeah, this third density experience our planet has provided with us has lasted for 75,000 years. It ended in 2011. We're now in a transition to fourth density. So yeah, this is when the Earth started its gradual transformation to become a fourth density planet, which will only be habitable by people who have evolved from third density beings and become fourth density beings. Okay? This is what will happen on Judgment Day. This is the hereafter. If you pass away before the Earth has fully made its transition, and you don't need to come back to third density for more lessons, then you'll stay in the heaven world, you'll stay in the hereafter, in the astral realm, and you'll await the Earth's transition. If you need to come back for more lessons of the third density, then you'll come back and you'll have those lessons in an attempt to make the harvest. So the harvest is basically, imagine a field of crops. When the crops are ready, the farmer picks the crops that are ready, they're ripe for picking, they're ready to go to the next stage. And that's what it is. If you're ready, if you're ripe, if your consciousness level have reached the fourth density, then you will be taken to the fourth density, to the next stage, the next plane of existence. Okay, if you're not ripe yet, and you're not ready to be harvested, using that same analogy, then you still have to wait in the third density, wait in that stage. A bit more sun, a bit more light, a bit more water, a bit more nutrients. Soon you'll be ripe, and soon you'll be ready as well to make the change to the fourth density. This is why, in my opinion, in the Quran it says, you know, they'll realize how short this life is in the hereafter, because according to Ra, the fourth density will last approximately 30 million years on this planet. Our third density only lasted 75,000 years. So the difference between this life that we've been living for 75,000 years, reincarnating over and over again as human beings, is very, very short compared to what we will do in the next density. Okay, so due to the third density existence being the first period of spiritual evolution, no beings that exist of fourth or higher densities are visible to those in third density, as it would distort our evolutionary progress. So say, for example, if you look in a lot of the ancient texts, the ancient Indian texts, they speak of these gods with a small g, and these beings, they had vimana, they had flying craft, they could shoot thunderbolts and fire, and they were flying, having battles through the air, and they had these amazing abilities and strength, and they were fighting in armies. It's theorized by a lot of people that these were fourth density and higher beings who are now in the unseen world to us. We can't see them anymore, they're in the higher density, but there was a time on Earth where they were coming to the third density and being seen, and they were interfering in human affairs. This is seen in the Bible, in the Bhagavad Gita. The Quran talks about the jinn from the unseen world. They have powers, they have abilities, some are good, some are bad. They're not just straight demons, some are good, they're living in service to others, some are living in service to self, which is the next thing I want to get onto. The thing we're doing here in third density is deciding how we want to evolve. Do we want to evolve by being in service to others, so helping other human beings, being of service, being of help, being of guidance, teaching, assistance, benefit? Or do we want to evolve through service to self? Service to self is by manipulating others